Got it. All right. Okay. So welcome to the Akana group, who is our featured topic today. I'm already trying to say Jen's name because I'm so worried about it. Okay, so today with the Akana group, we have Jen Tomasik. Yes, she is the VP of Operations. We have Chuck Battles, who is outside sales representative, and we have Anthony Cole, Director of Sales. So I'm going to hand it over to Jen so they can each give a little bit more background on who they are, and then she's going to share a screen and they have a PowerPoint presentation. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Fest South Health. Good day. My name is Jen Tomasik. I am a citizen of the Cawville Nation, and I'm also a descendant of the Salish Kootenai tribe. On the Salish side, I'm currently living in Oklahoma, Talco, Oklahoma, where I reside on the Cherokee Nation reservation. My children are also Cherokee and Creek, so I have pretty deep roots here. I was born here, but lived on res for a while, both reservations up north. Went to school, graduated SKC in 2001, and then moved back to Oklahoma and worked for the Cherokee Nation for over a decade in their communications department. Once I stepped out of there, I started working for a nonprofit called Onabin, and we had a entrepreneurial work group. And within that group, I met the Honorable Chad Johnson, who is the president of the Akana group and founder. And so after he told me his vision for his company, he asked if I would join him in that vision. And it was hard to say no when I saw the impact. Not that I didn't enjoy my years at Cherokee Nation or Nobbin, but I just felt like the reach was something that was in alignment with my heart for my people. So with that, I will pass it over to Anthony Cole, who is our brother who we've adopted, and we call him Yona, which is bear in Cherokee.
Yeah, and I wear it proudly. My name is Anthony Cole. I'm the director of sales here at the Akana Group. I've been with the company for, since close to its inception with Chad Johnson. I don't have the extensive resume that Jen does, and I like to keep things short and sweet when I can. So it's an honor for me to wake up every day and work with the Akana Group and the people we're able to help. So with that being said, I'm going to send it over to Chuck Battles, and Chuck will tell you a little more about himself.
Yakoki. Helito. My name is Chuck Battles. I am director of outside, not director. I'm the outside sales rep. You guys kept saying director. I just kind of follow suit there. I just sell equipment. It's what I tell people. So my main role, I'm a descendant of Choctaw Nation. I am a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. I live here in southeastern Oklahoma in Idabel on the reservation here. And but my main goal, the main thing that I do for the Akana Group is direct relationship sales and growth opportunities within our tribes and tribal communities abroad. Whether that's direct with tribal members, direct with the tribe or in their departments, or through the BIA, BIE, or IHS systems. I look for ways to collaborate, which we'll get a little further into that, and partner with our tribal communities together. But have a wife and 4 children and stay busy with that. So if you hear a screaming 1.5-year-old in the background, I apologize right now. He's and all the kids are out of school, and it's a beautiful day. So I'm actually sitting outside on our porch, this beautiful cloudy weather. No tornadoes in Oklahoma right now. So thank you for the honor to be here, to share our story with you, and look forward to the opportunities of us continuing to do great things inside Indian country for our communities and our people.
Well said, Chuck. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to start our slide and just say Halito. And that's the first thing that kind of sets us apart. When Chad started the company 10 years ago, he had an extensive history in his career in education, in international trade, and in the corporate world, big corporate. But he soon found that he had that drawing, a bigger calling upon his life to bring what he knew back to his people and to all tribal nations, all indigenous nations in the world, really. So he started to see where there was a need, and he saw Janie Hip's report and how there was, native farmer ranchers with lots of acreage, but the production of what they were producing wasn't lining up with the amount of acreage with the non-native farmer rancher, and what was the issue there. And it was pretty clear that it was access to equipment, access to capital. So he started a conversation with John Deere, and we actually came into contract with them, or a partnership with them, back in 2020, and right in the middle of the pandemic. But it didn't stop us. We have a pretty solid team, like you've heard with Anthony and Chuck, where we have our hearts in this, and we're really honored to be following Chad in his pursuits. It makes a lot of sense. The Akana is chalked off for ally. Makes a lot of sense for him to be selling equipment that actually moves the dirt, since most of our Choctaw brothers and sisters are mound builders. So he just kind of is innately doing what his people always did in time immemorial. So so we just say Halito, welcome to Akana. We are your ally. One of the, oops, hold on, let me see why there we go. The heart of Akana, our business model is built on relationships. There's a lot of companies out there that, obviously transactions help the company, but we always, our true north is what's the relationship in this? How is it impacting the people that we're working for? So we highly honor our alliances, not only with individual people that we work with, but the companies, our OEMs, and our tribal nations. We really look to bridge gaps, and meet everybody that we meet. If there's a need there, even if it's not equipment, our people are so multifaceted. If we don't know, we'll find somebody that does. So again, it always comes back to that relationship, and it's not just transactional. So our core values are creating generational impact. Anything we do, we have to ask, how is this going to affect the next 7 generations? How is this going to affect or strengthen our alliances who we're working with? And how is this equipping our people and our nations? So that's kind of like our value system that we work on, or work through and hold dear at Akana. And then with that, Anthony or Chuck, would you want to take this slide and our certifications? This is more of the.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to jump in.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen. So a lot of our certifications, in which having these certifications really open the door for Akana to partner with large OEMs such as John Deere and others. And so as you look here, we are the largest 100% native-owned equipment provider in the U.S. I like to say in the world. I think we've done some research, and we are, but not really to the T. So we partner with over 30 OEMs. John Deere's only native small business partner. We don't hold an exclusive with anyone. We don't hold a non-compete with any vendors, and that's kind of rare. With us being a native-owned firm, we made it a point to not allow even the John Deere's of the world, and that's a huge name, right? To really dictate who we are, and we as a native firm have to be that. We have to be true to who we are as individuals, and in that, because we do not hold these non-competes, we're able to really fulfill the needs of our tribes and our customers, and that's what's important to us. And again, the word Akana, the ally, is that we want to be a true ally to not only our OEMs, but directly with our partnership relationships with our tribes and the federal government and the different agencies that we work with. We do specialize in government and tribal procurement. And you see our federal certified as an ISB with Indian Small Business Economic Enterprise, or Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Hub Zone, Texas Hub. We're actually North Carolina Hub too. And then we work underneath additional NAICS codes there to be able to provide the equipment and supplies needed. We're registered now currently with over 200 tribes, and that's in different variances, whether it's TARO or CISO or just it's a contract form. Examples of the TARO certification with the Cherokee, or we're registered Tier 2 with Navajo. And so those things also provide not only the opportunity for us to work with the tribe directly, but also it's a benefit for our OEM partners to have a partnership relationship with us. So again, that true ally and the true triangle, I like to call it, of working together comes into play there. So you'll see there's a lot of different things that we touch, and I always get this question, and I've posted it on social media multiple times, and I get laughs from time to time. But we were at Res, or if we're at the IEC conference, or wherever it might be, construction in Indian country, and they're like, hey, Joe, well, what is it all that you sell? And I've learned to ask, well, what is it that you're buying or needing? Because as you look here, you can see ag, construction, forestry, roads, turf. You guys can read all that. We have access as a native small business with all our OEM partners to over 5 million different products and supplies. So everything from I call it from trash cans to dump trucks. So we can supply that for our tribes, for our different agencies that we work with. Yes, we specialize in the big things you see here. And as a growing up in agriculture, a little bit more about my background is I grew up on 2 cattle ranches in southeastern Oklahoma. My father's in the timber industry. So growing up around it, being mindful of the lands and hunting and fishing and farming and doing the things that we do with regenerative ag programs is allowed me to continue my passion of working in those industries, and thankful for that. And so, but you see, there's not much that we can't touch as a native vendor for the federal government to the tribes, and also directly to tribal members. And so, the co-ops, I hear some of you talking about those opportunities. There's great opportunity within that for us to work directly and allow these discounts that were allotted by the partnerships with our OEMs to our tribal members. Again, here's and don't overwhelm yourself, but and I believe, Jim, we can share this with the team, and they can email this out as well. But you see here, there's a lot of different groups and partnerships, and it speaks to what's taken place in Indian country and within our tribal communities in the last, really, I think, 5 years. You see the collaboration and partnerships really taking place, and this growth of where we started to where we are now. And we're adding more, literally on a weekly, monthly basis at times with OEMs. And we're very particular too about who we partner with and bring to Indian country, because we want to make sure that it's not just selling equipment, which we'll get into that here in a minute, but it's a true partnership where these OEM partners are not just trying to make a sale, but they're looking to make a difference. But you can see all the different things, whether it's road, vegetation, snow equipment, a lot of that this year, a lot of snow equipment this year up north. And then the commercial cleaning stuff. And that comes everything from floor sweepers to even our sweepers for our parking lots and things of that such.
Chuck, can I ask you
go ahead.
a quick question? You said
Yes.
something on one of the earlier slides about you're registered with over 200 tribes. What does that mean, and what does that entail?
It's different depending on the tribe. So prime examples, some tribes just they'll take that you're a native business and you're just part of their native business group that they send out emails to their tribal members or to their vendors. And then you have more of an in-depth, like the Taro programs with the Cherokee Nation, where it's a vetted process to become a certified native business that does certain things. And so then you're giving a preference, or like for Navajo Nation, it's a little more extreme, where the Navajo Nation, when they put out RFQs or RFPs for different things, they go to a native Navajo business owner first. And then if a Navajo tribal member doesn't hold a certification, or there's not a Navajo owned business that does that, then it falls to a tier 2, which is another tribal or native owned company, which we are underneath Navajo. So, and again, it's everything from an in-depth look like that to where we're just registered as a native business on their website. So it depends on the tribe and how they do their certifications. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks.
Jen?
Can I also expand upon that just a little bit, just for those viewers that don't know? I don't know if you had someone on that maybe don't know about the Taro program or what it stands for. It's a Tribal Employment Rights Office. It's not a law, so to speak, but it's a right that tribal nations have the opportunity to extend their sovereignty and say, we're going to keep our dollar with our tribal businesses. Basically what Chuck was saying about the Navajos decided to do theirs in that structure. That's their sovereign right to do that. The Taro is kind of like a baseline for most tribes. If they want to pick that up and open an office and then, create that certification to where that dollar stays with their tribal citizens, and then secondly, other tribal nations that are doing business on their reservations. So it's just, again, just one of those things that are just really it's really great that our tribal nations have the opportunity. And like Chuck said, there's a variance. Like, for example, there's a small tribe down Louisiana, and you call them and you say, in an honorable way, like, what do we need to do to be able to do business with you, and follow your protocols and your sovereign, way you guys, sovereign or govern your nation. And they were just like, just give us your name, and they literally write it down on a piece of paper or a notebook. So you have the variances of tribal nations and how they do it, or they have the really well established ones where they have a procurement site and bid boards, and you can go on there like the Cherokee Nation has. So it's really, however, whichever nation decides to do that. So that's something that we always seek. That's our first question when we work with a tribal nation is what are your, how can we follow your protocol to do business with you?
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. I like questions. So, whenever I met Chad Johnson, and you'll see there, so that's my ugly mug on the far left. That's Chad Johnson. There next to me. The other gentleman, the big bear on the far right, is Mr. Coe, and then Mark Oliver, who is really an advocate. Mark Oliver is with John Deere Corporate on the construction and forestry side, and Mark is one of the main reasons that we're here, and he is an advocate for Indian country, and very excited to work alongside him, and it's an honor to do so, Mr. Johnson. But you see here, it packs the next 7 generations of tomorrow. So I met Mr. Johnson through the American Indian Chamber of Commerce of Oklahoma. I was the treasurer of our division down here, and through that friendship, mentorship, he became a mentor of mine, became a working relationship. And what really sold me on is I've worked in corporate world. I've got a background really I was a high school baseball coach and worked in ministry aspects and missions, and then got into corporate America. And but corporate America never really satisfied the hunger to really serve people and to make an impact. Yeah, they had some things that they gave to this, but they're really, you went to work to do a job to create and help the stock and help the leadership. And so when Chad approached me about this opportunity, the 7 generations, I said, well, what's your goal? What's your vision? And he said, I want to take a handful of people, and I want to not only change their impact 7 generations deep. I want to change every group that we touch, whether it's a tribe, a group, a government. I want to change the world for 7 generations. And if you really think about that, it aligns with the goals of a lot of our native beliefs and a lot of the things that we pursue as tribal members. And that's something I could get behind. And so as you hear us continue to speak, it's less of this is who we are as an equipment provider, but more of who we are as a generational company, as a legacy company to really make a positive impact for 7 generations, whether that's through regenerative ag programs or roads programs, water development. I mean, the different things that we touch, just not here in the U.S., Hawaii and Alaska, but around the world, globally. And it's an amazing opportunity to get behind that. And so as you hear us talk and as you meet and greet us and you start to work on relationships together, as we're thinking, I'm not just thinking about why I'm selling you that tractor or these implements for this farm right now. I'm thinking, what are we going to do so that 7 generations from now, what I'm doing today is impacting those 7 generations? I'm going to let Jen kind of speak a little bit to this. Again, I very impactful, and there's a lot of opportunities here, and I'm going to touch a little bit of a highlight, and then I'll let Jen speak a little more to the company side of things. But as you see, there's a lot of opportunities, and I was talking to a gentleman yesterday from the USDA, and he said, I see you guys everywhere. And I said, yeah, we're kind of like that country music song. I've been everywhere, man. And that's the truth. One of us are probably in an airplane every other week or every week, just about. And it's great to be able to do those things, but learning as Native folks, we want to touch, we want to break bread together. We want to visit and talk through. And so the more that we're engaged, and you see here, we create these partnerships and these alliances again, Akana is an ally, togetherness, and that's who we are. So we look for opportunities to work with the different groups and here on, and you can see who's on the page, but whether that's assisting in trying to find someone financing for equipment, which we don't do any financing, that's all stuff outside, but we, tribal members need financing. And so we work with that. We work with the different nonprofit groups on cooperations and availability for equipment, not just equipment, but for training and for generative ag programs, development with the different groups here. And I'm gonna let Jen kind of talk a little bit about the equipment logistics services and who we are, because I just sell equipment, and that's one division of our company, and there's multiple facets of that, and I can speak way over my head. So I'm going to turn that part over to Jen, and then I'll loop back in.
Can I just interrupt really quick?
Yes, please.
Jen, I am going to send you on this list needs to be Intertribal Buffalo, so ITBC.
All right.
Have you guys met with Troy Heiner? Okay,
No.
he's their executive director. I will connect you with him. They have like over 80 tribes that they work with their buffalo and very specific needs. So let's connect on that. Okay, Jen, go for it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we like to show this because it's just that multifaceted, right? Like Chuck can talk about these things because we have a multifaceted group. Again, going back to the need of access to equipment, access to capital. So we started looking at the ways that we could help our tribal citizens and, just the different tribal nations that we work with just different funding types or nonprofits, that are looking for funding. Like we had someone reach out to us that had elephant farm that needed equipment, and they were a nonprofit. And that was a tribal citizen that was doing that, so from elephants to strawberry farmers, we we try to bridge the gap in whichever way we can. And and then working, every single logo on here, every single organization on here is an amazing organization, amazing people, same hearts as us. That's why we connect so well. Like Chuck said, that we don't just partner with anybody. We have to have like hearts and minds on where we're going. And so access to market, like if we meet a farmer or a rancher and they need this or that, like we connect them with the subject experts like you all. We know we don't know everything, but we know that you guys have created these organizations that can bring training. ACES, we just John Deere just started their first, Ronica, oh gosh, her last name, I don't want to hack it, so I'll just say Ronica. Ronica just helped initiate, she's an Indigenous woman, and she just started the first ERG with John Deere, or helped initiate it. And so we nominated her as the Business Professional of the Year for ACES because she's an engineer. And so she's being honored in that way. And John Deere's coming behind her and supporting her in that aspect, and AHEC, the different tribal college networks, which SKC is a part of. We're looking at bridging the trainings between what John Deere has, like they have a thing called JDU, which has all kinds of resources that can help. Myself and Brandy Ross, who's our business development director, went out to their training facility in Moline, Illinois, and got on 7 pieces of equipment and got like level 1, tier 1 certified to run this equipment. That's something that we're looking to either bring tribes to Moline or create these training hubs that are partnered with these AHEC colleges, which like SKC, John Deere came out to Salish Kootenai College, toured the heavy equipment facility there, tried to start facilitating how can we all connect between the dealership down in Missoula, RDO, JDU, and the college, and in that threefold, how can we bring resources to help support that program that's been there forever? And so that's in the works. So it's just like we kind of it's not all about equipment. And I think Chuck had the slide first listed out as it's not just about equipment, but it is about equipping Indigenous people in whatever aspect that is, whether it be training or access to market, access to capital, or even just the equipment itself, or the logistics services, which Ayatatoba is a trade logistics company that is a subsidiary of the Akana group that Chad is really kind of his heart to start helping when in the logistics of trade and working with different tribes to help them stand up free trade zones and work in that aspect. We can proudly say that Akana Idiatoba is the first well, how could I say this? First American Indian tribal small business that's incorporated within the Australia. Sorry, I totally hacked that up. But yeah, so we can say that we're the first tribal business in Australia. So that's super exciting. So we'll be Akana Equipment will be also providing the Indigenous nations in Australia with the same kind of model, which is amazing because once you get to know, like in our relationship building, our storylines are very similar. And they have a time where there was called the stolen children, and so there's like impact there, and there's a lot of shared stories in our communications with our friends down in Australia. So it just made sense for us to incorporate down there and bring these resources to them as well. And so we're excited about that. And like you said, like this, Vicky, or I think it was Vicky that you said that you have some more to add to this. We do need to update this and add more. We recently have been partnering with INFR and, really seeing how we can develop that, because the INFR, even though the tour, and then the finals, but it gives an opportunity to impact so many generations. You've got grandpa competing with grandchild, and all that time in between of them, doing the tour and being together and really seeing how we can kind of come alongside them and see how we can, either provide them equipment or training or scholarships or whatever it is that we can, kind of put in their path to help them succeed. So we just recently had I don't know, I just think it's fun to say, but we just recently had a meeting with Mo Brings Plenty and his heart. He's a horseman, him and Bo, his friends. So we just had a meeting with them, and so we're really excited about how this stuff is partnering up. So we'll see you in Polson. Rain, I'll see you hopefully, and Michael. So that's another exciting partnership that we have going. So with that, I will open up for questions. Unless Anthony, you have anything left that maybe we missed, sir?
No, as per usual, you two nailed it. So I have anything else would be a waste of everyone's time. So
Not true.
Hey, Emily, the Cashadas down in Alabama should be reaching out to you. I had a good conversation with them yesterday. They're doing a lot of rice and crawfish farming and looking to expand into cattle on their agriculture program. And they haven't done a lot with IAC, so I pointed them your direction, and they said they would be reaching out. So just heads up there.
So what was you doing in Polson next week, did you say?
Sorry, not next week. It is August. The INFR will have the rodeo there in August.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be up there that way.
I try to stay away from those. Too many wild cowboys and Indians. But definitely give us a call. Maybe Maureen and I can have lunch with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great.
That would be great. Yeah.
Done for sure.
Yeah. So to follow up on that, and Mike, how does the partnership work? Because for a long time, I just thought you were associated with John Deere and the heavy equipment, and I see you've got a lot of relationships with a lot of other smaller equipment dealers, which could be really impactful for like the tribal colleges, as you know, and places like that. So how does your partnership work with those? And then how do you bring in, individual tribal groups rather than going through the, tribal procurement process?
So I'll address part of that. So as far as the delivering the equipment, we're not a brick and mortar, obviously. Every OEM partnership that we have is at the corporate level. And so when we're working with tribes, tribal colleges, tribal communities on equipment needs, supply needs, everything flows through the local dealer or provider or service vendor. Or if it's just a strict supply, like 800 AC units for housing, for the Choctaw Nation. I mean, that all just ships directly from the warehouse to the Choctaw Nation or Cherokee Nation. And so the great thing about the relationships and how we've got it set up, because so many of our tribes are remote, right, and very rural, all of our partnerships, again, allow that opportunity for us to fully complete a full service end-to-end solution. And we do that up front, because some of these deliveries are 400 miles from the nearest dealer. And so we work, and that's the great thing about having these relationships on both sides of the fence, is we're allowed to, and given the opportunity really to share the struggles of our tribes and tribal colleges, to get service, to get parts. And so we're able to bridge that gap, because we're that go-to from the tribes, because we understand the tribal side, because a lot of us have lived it, ate it, and slept it, right? But we also understand the hustle and bustle of the corporate side. And so we're able to do that. And then, as far as, can you elaborate a little more on your second question on the connections and bringing other in? Are you talking more of, how do we work directly with the tribe versus the BIA, IHS, BIE, or?
Right, yeah, directly with tribal entities or individuals, or,
Right.
folks
Yes.
that aren't necessarily in tribal
A government slide. Got it. So great question. So prime example, reason we go to a lot of these events is to meet the different tribes. So a lot of the tribes purchase on their own. Some are heavy BIA, BIE, right? And so what we do is, again, the reason we go and have all these touch points is to meet these individuals within the different capacities within the tribe. I mean, just think about, again, you go from a small tribe like, the Alabama Coshada tribe, and basically there's 2 people I talk to in the whole tribe for every need that they have. And then you have tribes as large as the Navajo Nation, where you've got 10 people within just one group of the Navajo Nation, right, within one district. And so it's vital to us to reach out, whether it's through their tribe directly, and then you go through the programs and say, okay, this program specializes in this, and we talk to that director, and then they hand you off to a lot of their purchasing agents on the bigger tribes who have their own procurement processes. So it's a lot, it really, I mean, because there's so many touch points, but that's where, again, we collaborate. And when we work with other groups, a lot of it is working together. So there's this week alone, probably 6 opportunities already in the first 2 days, where groups that we've talked to, or we work with, we partner with, are sending tribal people with us, because you touch a lot of lives. Emily touches a lot of lives. Mike touches a lot of lives that we'll never probably, hopefully maybe someday, but we probably won't touch them as far as knowing them, shaking their hands. And they do. So whenever we have these conversations and we say you'll hear the word multifaceted a lot. We listen and always have a conversation, because we never know where it's going to lead. And so in that, we create these opportunities. So if something comes up, like when I'm talking with the Coshadas and they're doing farming down there, but they're really getting into some other things, and I say, well, hey, are you involved with the Intertribal Ag Council, or have you worked with the Native American Ag Fund? And they say no, then I'm able to connect those dots and help them to benefit that way. But again, it's all about those touch points, and those touch points happen with us doing these things, being at RES, being at the Construction Indian Country Conference, being at the Intertribal Timber Council Conference, so IAC, and all these different events, so that we can build those relationships directly with the tribes. And it's all about just asking the right questions and knowing what those are within the tribal communities. Probably a long-winded way to answer your question. I hope it did.
Yeah, good.
Sorry. Okay. Any other questions? Jen, if you would stop sharing. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes. Nope, you're good. Let's leave that up there. So we have contact info.
Again, that's my contact info. Feel free to text, call. Again, if I don't answer immediately, I will get back to you shortly on that. And that's our equipment email. A lot of us get that directly as well. So either one of those emails works great. I know some people text questions, and that's fine. Just when you text me, remind me who it is that you are and who you're with. Sometimes I get random texts. Hey, Chuck, I need this. And I'm like, okay, who are you and where do you need it? And because that'll help me to understand where you are and when the timeline starts, able to connect with the right dealerships in the right area, so that you're getting the best service for what you need.
So couple last questions. Jen, can you put your email in there in the chat, if you wouldn't mind?
Absolutely.
And there is a question that I'll bounce off to you, Jen, after I inject mine about the elephant farm. But a question for you, Chuck, when you were talking about 7 generations, thinking about 7 generations. So this is the Native Climate Working Group.
Mhm.
So question for you is, how do you think about addressing the climate crisis, looking out 7 generations, and what can you do to help people transition potentially away from fossil fuel engines?
Okay. Great question. So we work with many, I say many, we're working with a handful of actually full electrified tractor companies and equipment vehicle companies to create those partnerships for us to be a native vendor for them. I'm a native reseller to bridge that gap when it comes to those things. We're working with many tribes on regenerative ag programs that again will slow the emissions and creates one. It's better for the soil, it's better for the land, but it also really cuts down on our CO emissions that way. The timber industry is also a great opportunity that we're seeing, that I'm working with on different groups on biofuels and regenerative fuels on that aspect of things, to again get away from the fossil fuel aspect of what we're doing. It's a hard road to go down. I mean, we all know that it's something that we're working with some hydrogen plants as well, and different things in the aspect on hydrogen fuel cells, and whether that's big machines or even cars. I think there's a big future there. And here in the U.S. And so we're seeing a lot of those partnerships, and we're trying to be forward thinkers in that, again, because, you know, I want my children to have a wonderful world, but not just my children, but my children's grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren, and that thinking process. And so as we do these things, John Deere's looking at electrifying and doing a lot of their engines in that way as well. So again, we're kind of at the front of some of this stuff, and we're trying, and again, it's a learning process too, because I didn't come from, I mean, I came from the forest industry, right? And so learning more about the electrification of vehicles and how it impacts, and the charging stations and the ports and the things that we do, and the struggles that we have within any country to have access to those things, right? And so those are great conversations that we're having right now to be able to create that positive impact for our climate and for our communities.
We'd be really interested in hearing more about, as you assess the efficacy of electric equipment.
Okay.
You know, I know there's some electric vehicles out there, some things, I mean, certainly, you know, mowers and chainsaws and all that sort of stuff. But it would be really nice, since you have that 7th generation perspective, to understand, you know, what are the offerings out there? Because I know, you know, the groups that I work with on the Flathead Reservation, a lot of them, and there's a big push that the Mike's leading the final climate plan. We have a climate resolution that all departments should be considering climate in everything they do. You know, there's a push to put in electric charging stations here on the Flathead. So anything that you can do to help us make those connections into, you know, reducing carbon emissions would be really helpful. Mike, you want to say something on that?
No, find me a glass crusher.
Find you a glass crusher.
Okay.
That's a big issue. There is no glass recycling in the state of Montana. None, 0. I carry my glass bottles back in my vehicle to Nevada when I drive back a couple times a year. So yeah, things like that would be really helpful to understand in the equipment world.
And I can make it into colored sand. I know there's a market, you know, it's
right.
different colored sand.
Okay.
Really good point, Mike.
I like a good challenge, Mike. So thank you for that. I'll see.
Yeah.
I'll see what I'm trying to get the Navajo Nation a piece of machinery that's not supposed to be sold to the U.S. for 2 years, but I think I may have it pulled off. I cross my fingers. We'll see. We'll see how it gets shipped from Europe to Navajo. We'll figure that out one way or the other.
Toma's got you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, elephants? Where did you meet elephants?
So that's a good story. So I live in Idabel, Oklahoma, which is just down the road from a little town called Hugo, Oklahoma, which is Circus City, USA. Home of, at one time, 3 major circus groups. But they have been a huge advocate for animals and animal refuge. And so they have a pretty large elephant farm and refuge now in Hugo, Oklahoma, of all places. And if you look on it, really, it's about maybe 3,200 people total in the small town of Hugo. And they had reached out through, again, I believe, was it Jen or Chad was at a meeting in Oklahoma City and ran into somebody, and then they connect, like, yeah, I know who they are. And they're like, hey, can you work on this? And next thing you know, because they need for forage. So it was a tractor and a big hay crusher that they would mix food pellets in with the hay and crush it up, because a lot of their matriarch elephants are very old, and so eating is a very hard thing for them. So being able to provide that, again, things that even as a gatherer hunter, the passion for our animals and to be able to operate and give back in a way and to give a discount to where they wouldn't be able to qualify for discounts. To save them literally tens of thousands of dollars on equipment purchases to then be able to put back into their programs. So yeah, that's kind of how that, and I don't remember who it was that connected the first dot, but then when it got to me, I'm like, oh, that's just right down the road. I'll go see them. I already know most of the guys that run it. And so again, it's a small world when you start talking to folks, right?
Yeah.
It is. I had a colleague in Washington, D.C. who used to play elephant polo. And
Wow.
that was a great way to introduce it.
Fun.
Thank you all very much. Please, Jen, please be in touch with us. I'll send you an email. There's some really good opportunities, and we'd love to be able to share your information with a larger group and find opportunities. Like I said, the tribes right now are tied into having CSKT just passed a climate resolution. So we've got some really good opportunities to connect. And Jen, when you're here, then it would be really helpful. Mike and I can probably help you get connected to some of the tribal folks here in housing and forestry, folks that you may, if you don't know them already.
Sure, that'd be great. We've been working with Mark Couture, trying to connect with him. So
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Vicki had to drop off because she had cows in the road.
Oh man, that was me last week.
Love it.